if you want. What? I think you just have to be signed in. Okay, I'm just trying to test the volume. Test, test, test. What? Good evening, everyone. I think we're going to kick this off. In this time where there's a lot of firsts, and this is my first live parent principal forum. It's my first time trying to use YouTube Live, so be patient with me. I realize you're only getting a small picture and part of the screen, but I think what I have to say is more important than what I look like, hopefully. Thank you to all the parents who sent in questions today. So I have a list of questions that I'm going to be able to go through. Also in the chat, I can see the questions that people are already posting. So I'll try to address those. I am going to try to keep things general tonight, but as I said in my email, if you have specific questions about your child or your family, please reach out to me via email. And if I can't manage it via email, I will give you a phone call and we'll work to try to sort this out. I realize that there's a lot of uncertainty around this, and we've been working really hard since the announcement from the government to put together a plan that I feel confident in, that not only keeps our children safe, but also serves their learning. And one of the things that I do want to lay out here as I begin is we're using a lot of terminology like distance learning or hybrid learning. And one thing that I want to say is, in a lot of ways, for us as a school and for you as families, this is crisis management. And we're looking at how we can take, I shouldn't touch my face, how we can take an unknown and turn it into something that is the most beneficial for our students at the time. So let me just tell you a few things that weren't clear from my email to kind of address a few things, and then I'll go through the questions. I want to try to be succinct. I want to try to make sure that the information that I give you is addressing the questions that you put forward. So what we do know now, thank you for those of you who filled in the survey. We know that out of the 57 students that we currently have in grade 5, 44 of those are scheduled to return to the building on Tuesday. So that's a good number. We have broken all of our students down into 5 groups. So there will be one group, which are the 13 students who are currently staying at home to remain on distance learning. Those students will be managed by one teacher. So starting next week, Miss Gautry will remain focused on distance learning, and she will work with all of those children who are remaining home. The children who will be coming to school will be split into 4 groups, and those groups will be with Miss Deanna, Miss Moore, Miss Traggart, and Miss Valerie Racine, who is the EAL teacher, the support of Mr. Stuart Smith, and support from me. They will be in groups. The largest group that we will have in a classroom will be 13. We will follow all the other groups are smaller, 12, 8, 9. And we will do everything based on the 1.5 meter distance for separation. We will run the reduced schedule as we've shared with you of children will start the day at 8:20 and then they will finish the day at 11:45. While the students are at school, they will be doing their homeroom classes, and then in the afternoon they will have time to work on their single subjects and will continue on distance learning. Okay, so I realize that for some people the video is freezing, and I am not sure if that's because I'm talking too fast, so I will try to put my student voice on and slow down a little bit. Let me just start to go through some of the questions and we'll see how the video and sound quality works for us as we move along. So I've looked at with students who aren't returning, they will remain on the distance learning program the same as what they're doing now. The difference will be that students who are not currently in Miss Gautry's class will be working with Miss Gautry starting next week. We will have a plan to transfer some of that information and to set up communication between Miss Gautry and the parents who will be new to working with her. I have told about the number of students who are in each room. What we're trying to do is limit the number of direct exposures that children have to other people. So that's why we have gone into the classrooms, cleared out all of the furniture, the bean bags, the carpets, and we've set up a learning environment that is not just students in rows, but we have the distance and students can still interact with each other and the teacher and see around the room while still keeping the physical distance from each other and the teacher. There was a question whether there be at least one teacher in the room at all times with the students, and that's of course yes. The students will not be unsupervised and we will follow the same child protection guidelines that we would always follow. We have a team of 7 people who will be there to make sure that we have the students adequately supervised at all times. Will there be recess for the students? If then, how will the physical distancing be ensured? How will break work? And there were some related questions about mask being on break. There will be a 30-minute break as normal that the children will have. So as I mentioned, there are 4 groups of students and 2 groups will go out at a time. So approximately 21, 22 students will be outside at a time. We will have specific planned activities that will engage the students with some activities that they can do at distance. We will use a large amount of space and we will make sure that there are adults who are outside ensuring that students are keeping the physical distance from each other. Students are not required to wear the mask outside, so when they're on break, they will not have to wear a mask. Will there be frequent need for students to use hand sanitizers and wash hands with soap? We will try to keep our focus on students washing their hands. So we just have to make sure the challenge with washing hands is the physical distance from students each other when they're washing their hands. But we will be using 3 different bathroom setups, so 3 girls' toilets and 3 boys' toilets, to make sure that the students have enough space. We're only allowing 1 student at a time to go into the toilet, whether they're using the toilet or washing their hands. So we will be managing that quite strategically at certain times. There will be requirements every time that they come into the building, or any time that there's movement, that the students will be required to wash their hands, and we will do that in shifts according to the groups. There will be hand sanitizer at the entrance to the Waves building and in other places near the classrooms, but we want to try to focus on students washing their hands as much as possible. Should students bring water and food from home? Yes, students should bring a water bottle from home, and students should bring a snack that they will be able to eat outside during the break. We will not eat in the classroom, we will not eat in the building, and the students going home at 11:45 will mean that they can have their lunch once they get home. So we want to try to limit the exposure to food and kind of the hand to mouth thing that would happen inside, or the possibility for children to share food. So we will be watching that closely when we're outside. Is there a plan for other grades to return to school at later dates? At the moment, we have no clear indication from the Ministry of Education or the Ministry of Health of when we will be able to bring other grades back into the school. I would love to see all of our children walking in that door every day. I have plans that can be scaffolded to bring different grades in a managed manner, but currently we don't have solid plans to bring other grades other than grade 5 to the building at this moment. For pickup and drop-off points, the secondary students will be using the Agora entrance, and only primary students will be coming in the Waves entrance. We will set up lines where students can stand, and we'll bring them in an orderly fashion to make sure that we're keeping physical distance as they come into the building. Parents at this point will not be allowed into the building unless they have an appointment to meet with someone in the building. We do want to limit the number of people that we have coming in and out. And if there's something that you need, or you need to meet with me or someone in the building, just reach out. We'll set the appointment. We'll clear that with security. There's a question: will children use their own stationery pens and pencils? And that's a yes. Tomorrow in the email that I will send you, there will be a list of things that we require the students to bring, and that's mostly any notebooks that they have, or any exhibition work that they have at home, some of the folders that they'd already taken home, and their iPads, of course. But we're not going to share stationery, pens, pencils, those kind of things that we would normally do in the classroom. Each student will have their own space within the classroom, and we want for them to have their things within their space. So that will be something that students will bring from home. There's a question: can children cycle into school and leave on their own? And that is a yes. We will be working with students the first few days out at the bike racks to make sure that when they're parking their bikes and coming to school, and when they're leaving school, that they keep the appropriate distance from any other people. We've got a lot of space there for kids to park the bikes, and if that proves to be a challenge for students parking their bikes, we can work with the parking arrangements to try to make it work. Sorry, I'm working off multiple devices here. The question about masks. So the mandate has come from the government that we're required to wear masks when we're in the building. So we are going to require that students do wear masks when they're in the building. Now, I appreciate that this is not going to be easy, and even for us who have been working in the building this week, practicing and wearing masks as we move around, it's an interesting thing. We encourage students to bring their own masks. We have fortunately this week had a donation from Hallway of 10,000 disposable masks. So we will have masks there available if a child should forget theirs. But we encourage students to have their own mask to use when they come to school. Um, there's a question about the procedure if one child gets sick and confirmed with COVID-19. With that situation, we would once again lean on the Department of Education and the Department of Health with what would be our steps as far as the students within grade 5 and within the students in secondary and within the faculty of what we would do at that point. Um, so we would follow their advice. As I said, we are trying to strictly limit the number of direct exposures that our students have. We're trying to set things up logistically where the primary students and the primary teachers don't have interactions with the secondary students. So we're hoping that should there be a diagnosis within the school, that it limits the number of people that would have to go on quarantine. But once again, if that situation would come up, we would refer as a school back to the relevant authorities, and they would advise us which steps to go through. So that kind of covers most of the questions that I was emailed today. Let me see if I can go through some things that are in the chat. I appreciate everyone who's putting the questions in. I hope that I've kind of addressed the breaks. As I said, that they'll be 30 minutes with around 22 kids at a time. At least one and probably two adults on duty with organized activities to try to keep the kids engaged so they're not just outside and a bit lost. Where should there be rain, it would be a situation where we would just stay inside in the classrooms. For the question of how often the toilets will be cleaned, because we're using a limited amount of toilets within the building because of the small amount of both secondary and primary kids in the building, we have a cleaner who will be doing a regular hourly round of going through and disinfecting, especially the sink areas in the bathrooms where children will be washing their hands. As I said, we recommend that children have their own face mask, but there will be approved disposable face masks there available for anyone who does not bring one. The question about temperature, we've discussed this, and the recommendation that we have had from the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health is that we are not required to take temperatures. We are still discussing the feasibility of this and getting the right tools, and I will feed that this question has come up from 3 people back to Ms. Fire and Mr. Traggart, but at the moment we do not have a standardized plan that we will take children's temperatures. We will be managing their health. We are depending very heavily on families that any child that is showing symptoms or flu-like symptoms, that child is kept at home, or if there's anyone in the household who is showing those symptoms, that the student does not come to school. The question about the teachers that will be in school, as I've said, Miss Gautry will not be in school, and she will be responsible for managing all the students who are continuing with distance learning from home. So we will continue to have Miss Moore, Miss Deanna, Miss Traggart, Miss Valerie Racine, who is the EAL teacher, Mr. Stuart Smith, and myself. The question about students doing distance learning will continue with the same scheduled time, but just to revisit our timeline, on Monday the 4th, there will be no academic work for the 5th grade students while teachers are getting the building ready and making the plans. On May 5th, when the students come to school, There will be no academic work, as the day will be spent on orientation and making sure that students have clarity of what we mean by physical distancing, that students have clarity of how they move in the hallway, how they move in the classrooms, and that students have clarity on what the hygiene expectations are. I have a lot of trust in our students and their ability to be mature and responsible, but I will also make it very clear to the students from day one that if they have challenges abiding by the rules that we put forward, I will ask them and their parents for them to stay at home. The I understand there's a comment about having students not eat snacks, but there were concerns about students with their sugar level and their blood level, and my first reaction was to say no snacks, but I appreciate that going from 8 o'clock until 12 o'clock for some students is really hard, and so we want to provide that opportunity, but we will be quite strict on where the students are keeping their food. It won't come into the classroom, and what happens with them when they were on break. Um, we would expect that the students do bring their backpacks. There was a question about the hooks. We have taken the hooks out of the classrooms, and the students will not be having hooks. They will just have their own desk space. We're not going to do indoor outdoor shoes. The students will just have one pair of shoes, and that's what they will wear. And so we want to make sure that there's not a need for students to be clumped or massed together, and that we can smoothly kind of move in and out. The question about I understand there are some families who are out of the country and being required to come back into the country and do quarantine. We're highly aware that each family has its own unique circumstances, and we want to do our best to make sure that you as parents feel that you have a choice, that you as parents feel confident that we are taking your child's safety and your child's education at the forefront of what we're trying to do, and that you feel comfortable with what's happening. So, should you be out of the country and you return in and you'd like to move from distance learning to being in the building at a later time, we will definitely facilitate that. If after a short period of time that your child comes to school, you have a feeling that either you or your child is not comfortable with what's happening with them coming to school, we can arrange for your child to be moved back to distance learning. So that's just something that what I ask is, as we go through the first days, if you have concerns, you have my email. Let me know, and I will do my best to address them. And if I can address them in a manner that brings you comfort, we will make arrangements that we can move your child back to distance learning. I feel kind of strange continually talking while looking at questions that are typed. Are there any other questions that you would like to add into the chat that you feel that I haven't addressed? What what I'll say at the moment is that I get that this is hard, and it's hard for us as a school. The teachers involved and the support teachers have spent a lot of time really trying to figure out what they were comfortable with, what they felt they would be comfortable with your children involved, and what served the learning in the best way. We all want to see the kids. We know the kids miss each other. We miss them. Um, the and we've really tried to be purposeful in what we're doing. I've just seen a few questions that a few of them are a little bit easy. On the first day, on Tuesday, there will be lines outside of the Waves entrance where students can stand, and then I will be there, Miss Kelly will be there, security will be there, and we will help the students move in. We will we will be making sure that tomorrow you get a list of all the things that the students need to bring with them. We will be sending you a schedule so you will be able to see what will be happening with the kids during the day, specifically with their break. Um, for the grade 5 exhibition, I do not see in the near future that we will be having a large physical gathering. So we are still looking at plans of a virtual exhibition and how the students can share their learning and their work there. Um, for the students who have been working with Miss Gautry and will be coming in the school, all of the work will be shared as far as the process journals, what's been happening with the exhibition, um, because the processes that have been happening as far as the exhibition have been shared across all of the fifth grade. And one of the narratives that we're using for Miss Gautry and Miss Deanna and Miss Moore and Miss Racine and Miss Traggart and Mr. Smith and myself is that all of these students belong to all of us. So we're all going to have an awareness of where they're in maths. We're all going to have an awareness of where they are in the exhibition, and we'll be supporting and working with them to make sure that we know where they are, we know the work that they're doing, and we know things that we can do to take them to the next step. When just for the students who are in the building, we'll be focused on the PYP exhibition and mathematics. What I will do now is I will sum up with a few things, and then I will leave this because I think I may have a tendency to just ramble. Just a few things to clarify. All of grade 5 will be working to the same expectations and the same planning, whether they are doing distance learning or whether they are in school. Miss Gautry, Miss Moore, and Miss Deanna will continue to plan together. They will continue to have daily work plans like we've seen in distance learning, and we will have the same expectations of what we would like students to achieve. I do just somewhat want to sum up and say how appreciative I am of the work that our teachers have done. And I think that this team that works with the grade 5 students are an amazing group of educators. And I also want to say thank you to you as parents for the support that you've given us as a school over these interesting 2 months. I think we've got an incredible community. I think that we have an incredible group of students. I think we have some amazing teachers, and I think that we have some wonderful families. So I appreciate the time that you've taken to listen to me ramble. As I said, any questions that I didn't bring clarity to for you tonight, please email me. I will be sending information out to you tomorrow to go along with the student rules. And the student rules are posted in the chat, and they were also in the email that came from Ms. Beyer today. So once again, thank you very much. I wish good things for all of you, and I appreciate being part of this school. Thank you very much.